All right there, folks. This is going to be my quick tips for the Whiskey and Lemons DLC. I think I'm going to have a longer tutorial that gets more in depth with this stuff, but this is just out there for someone who has no idea what's going on, and I just want to try to point you in a few good directions. Again, so it's worked for me. There are certainly other ways to play this, and so for the folks who have that, go ahead and leave that in the comments. And for everyone else, this is what I can suggest. The first thing I would think about or call your attention to is that there are certain elements of your career that will travel with you, and there are certain elements that kind of they go where you put them and they won't travel with you. Early on in your career, the force you start leading, you're not likely going to be with for very long. And so you don't want to put too much into that force, and you want to invest in things that are going to travel with you. And then once you get into a force that you're probably going to be with for a year, maybe the rest of the war, then it's time to start making investments in that force. All right, so in Whiskey and Lemons, we have these tabs up here with the portrait and the camp. Some of the things that travel with you, right? Your name, your nickname, some traits that you probably started with or you'll develop. This bar right here, I'm waiting to get promoted. It'll tell you how much progress you've made towards ranking up to the next level, your money or prestige, your traits, your adornments. The action cards, I would say for the most part, those benefits are going to travel with you, and your headquarters travels with you, but not the staff corps. So the general staff and the companions generally do. The staff corps does not. In camp, and this is where I think the distinction is more important, there are certain camp activities, particularly those in the middle of the camp, that tend to travel well with you, whereas things around the periphery tend to be more fleeting, or they'll stick with a particular force. So early in the war, when you're focused on developing things that are going to travel with you, what you're really focusing on is developing your character, your stats, all that good stuff. So my recommendation is that after you create your character and you're looking at a force to command initially, try to get a force that's going to save you at least 400 prestige after you're done taking it, and preferably 750 prestige. So the reason why is because from the time you get brigade level command, assuming that most will probably have brigade, if not maybe a division level command, there's a really powerful loop in the actions here that I would encourage you to run repeatedly. It's the fundraising political rally loop. The reason why you need 400 prestige is that it costs 200 to run the fundraising action. You can run this 20 times in the course of a career. So with 400 prestige, you'll generate $1,000. You then run political rally for $1,000, and it creates 1,000 prestige. So by the power of these magical actions, 400 prestige turned into 1,000. It nets you 600 prestige. Various factors are going to influence how fast that takes. Fundraising is very quick. Political rally takes longer. I would say running the whole loop once, 2 fundraising and 1 political rally, is probably on the order of about 3 months or maybe a little bit less. But you're going to want to be running that one again and again. If you have 400 prestige, you can definitely afford to do that. If you can't, you might be stymied early on. The other reason why or the additional 350 prestige is that when you start off at brigade level, and I think it's true for division level as well, you get 2 general staff slots. I'm one who argues that you should fill them. Each one of these, I think, would cost in the neighborhood of about 125 prestige, and I would recommend generally getting better folks. They're going to allow you to progress faster. They're going to build up your stats faster. They're going to help in a number of ways that I think are worth far more than the initial investment. In the early days of your campaign, the camp activities you should be putting your time into would be military studies, planning with staff, assuming that you have them. The engage in politics is really good for, it's just a raw prestige gainer, and prestige is going to be the most important. Prestige and money are really the kind of 2 resources that matter, and they are convertible. But in general, I'm going to want to have more prestige on hand than money. So you're going to want that leisure time for some camp actions, but they also allow camp actions to move through more quickly. Of course, you're going to have your own rest. If you care about subordinates, you can put it there. That one's not essential. But all of the other camp activities, I would say early on, are not worth it. If you have a companion who cannot be applied to anything else that's useful and can only go to consult companions, that's fine. Then put them in consult companions. I'm one of those that I say don't worry about drilling the troops. There are reasons why. I would just say for the quick tips, don't worry about it until you get your forever force. What you are building toward in, I'll say, maybe the first 12 to 18 months of your campaign, depending on a number of factors, is you're looking for something at the core or the core equivalent of command. What that means is that you are going to have independent action on the campaign map. You are no longer beholden to being a division commander or brigade commander that's being ordered around. So like we have in this campaign, I can order, it's called Hampton's Division, but it's effectively my core and I can send it wherever I want, even though I have superiors telling me to move things. It's my decision. And you'll get that in a number of ways. One might be that you would apply for promotion once you reach the sufficient rank. And when you see these little wings here, it'll tell you you can apply for those commands. And it'll come with a prestige cost and tell you what it is, and you can do it that way. Another might be that you might get promoted. They might create, so you can see there it's 2.3k for that particular core level command. That would be one. The other way is that you'll just get promoted, and you'll see it. It'll happen after a promotion comes through here, and you'll be sufficiently high up that you can command at the core level. Then you'll get offered a command. It may or may not come with a lot of troops, and you may have to build it out. It might be cheap to take if there are very few troops offered with it, but then you'll need to use your additional prestige to build out those forces. I've generally done better by taking over command of a modest core level command, maybe around 10, 12,000 or so, and then building it up from there. That's just me. Once you end up with that core level command, and so you have independent action on the campaign map, a lot more stuff matters. If you've done what I've suggested up to this point, you invested in some general staff, you get whatever companions you have, you've put them to work in their camp activities, and then you put the additional hour into things that build up your stats. Now that you have independent command of a force, you're going to have to, as the situation arises, worry about readiness, recruitment, logistics, maybe perks, and especially the drilling of troops. And to some degree, you're probably going to want to care about consulting your subordinates. The reason why I say situationally is it doesn't make sense to put time into those activities if they're already done. So here we're well supplied, and so it would do us no good to put hours into logistics. We could use hours in readiness. I would say that we could use hours in recruitment. We have a large number of disabled folks right now. And so that would be money as well. If we had, our training overall is good. There are differences within this force, but overall it's not terrible, but we could probably stand to put more training, particularly because I know that there are some newer brigades that aren't up to the same level as some of the older ones. But again, once you do that, once you make those decisions and you've solved the problem, you've got your readiness, you've got your morale, you've got whatever was missing, make sure to go back into camp activities, take those hours down, and then plow them back into continuing to develop yourself. It's also when you've kind of reached your long-term command or maybe your forever command that I think it's time to start looking at some of the adornments and other things. Of course, if you roleplay this, that's absolutely fine. This character, by the way, was a random creation with only 1,000 prestige and $100 at the start. And I've applied the stuff that I'm talking about now, and these stats have absolutely flown up, and I haven't modded any of that stuff. I do the more roleplay stuff, not the optimal items. There are better items, some of which are more expensive and unlock later on when you get to higher commands. And they tell you what they do. So if we hover over this, we'll see what the White Horse does, but it increases the leadership and morale of your men. That's pretty good. It's the second best mount that you can have. But if you're ever going to do this stuff, I would say you can start thinking about doing this stuff. More important than rushing to do all of those things, although those are money expenses. And so if you aren't able to convert it to prestige because you're doing other things, then spend it there. You're going to need to use prestige now, if you're going to be here for a while, to equip the men you have with the best weapons you can get them. And I would say that's true for cavalry, infantry, and I would generally recommend that you probably don't touch artillery, especially if you inherited them and they have decent weapons. But it costs as much to equip one of these as it does an infantry or cav brigade, and you're going to get way more prestige from both of those. And I believe the last part of camp life in your forever home is now thinking about other actions. Now it does this when you have more than one card in one place. When you start at low levels of command, you can only play one card from each color. You can play it repeatedly, but you can only play that one. The fundraising political rally is the easiest loop to run. A very good early move. It's called buy stocks. It's one of these green actions. It should be available with every character. It's pricey. It costs $1,000, so you got to have the money. But basically, you get that money back within a year, and then you continue to get almost that much money each year. So again, the earlier you take it, the more likely it is to pay off quite handsomely over the course of 36, 48-month campaign. Strongly recommend that. The infantry, well, I have infantry specialist and marksmanship because I'm mostly commanding infantry. For just 500 prestige, it does quite a bit for them. I also got very fortunate when I took over command of this corps that the corps had already taken I think it had already taken the embedded reporters perk. And so that helped me get legendary fame here. And this is less than 2 months of war. We've done a lot of fighting, but we haven't done that much fighting. So perk selection at that core level is also something you want to think about. But fame is very important for a number of reasons. If you're missing any of these things that matter to me, fame, leadership, and administration are the three that matter. There's always a purple card for that. And you can read what they do. But those things will top off anything that has not built up sufficiently well. Other than that, there's not too much here I can recommend to you in the actions. A lot of the orange stuff I don't do. This other kind of orange stuff I also don't do. I find that I have better uses of prestige and money elsewhere. If you like to do it, that's fine. And again, I think there are a few of the good blue ones that you can use. So because this is supposed to be a quick tips, I'm gonna wrap it here, and I'll save the extended discussions and explanations for the longer video. Again, if you came to this and you had absolutely no idea how you might chart your career, I hope that these tips help, and look forward to bringing you more in the longer form version.